Hi everybody, welcome to Dragon Tales. I'm Amy, a teacher at Dragon's Breath Yoga. I'm coping with social distancing by staying connected to, not just in touch with, but connected to the people that really matter to me. So that is my community, those are my friends and my loved ones. And when I say staying connected to versus in touch with, I mean, I'm not always just texting, and texting is fine when you just need to reach out to somebody really quickly. Just give them a heads up, let them know that you're thinking about them, that's great. But I mean, it really matters, at least to me, and I think to a lot of other people, to see faces, to hear voices. So if you are someone who has an aversion to social media or sort of any sort of video chatting or photos that you send that are of you, I hear ya. I have a pretty big aversion to those as well. However, I'm finding that it's more important for me to sort of push through that aversion to stay in touch with people and feel connected to them. So video chatting, I'm taking yoga classes via Zoom. I'm obviously teaching yoga classes via Zoom. I'm sometimes, rather than sending a text message, I'm opting to send like an audio message or even like a quick video message or a quick photo of something that I'm doing. Rather than just having a call with a friend, I might do a video chat with them, and rather than just sort of sitting there, maybe we'll do a cooking tutorial. That kind of thing. We need to get creative with how we're going to stay connected because we might be here for a little while. Humans are social creatures, right? So we need to stay connected, even if we can't stay physically connected. Just seeing loved ones' faces and friendly faces and hearing their voices, it makes a huge difference. This is the big question, right? And this is a question that most of us face on a regular basis, just not to the extent that we're facing it right now. So for me, what I do to feel calm in the midst of uncertainty is, one, I try to stay in touch with my body and stay grounded, right? So my yoga practice really helps me with that. It also functions as sort of a moving meditation. At times when it might be difficult for me to sit in meditation because all the thoughts that are sort of spiraling in my head, or because I've been trapped in my apartment a lot of the day and I need to get moving, and maybe it's a time where there's a ton of people outside and I'm not feeling comfortable because I don't feel like we can keep that 6-foot distance with that many people on my street or whatnot. So I find the practice that works for me, which is my yoga practice, and that varies from day to day, what it is that I need from that. But honestly, like most of us have, and for me this is the case, two different sorts of responses to uncertainty, right? One is anxiety, and the other is we check out, right? And then there's sort of the third option. We kind of go back and forth between the two, or a little bit of a combo between the two. So I found it's really important for me to stay in tune with my body and to be aware of what those triggers are, or what the sort of the red flags that either one of those things is about to happen. Sort of an anxiety buildup, or me just checking out and not being present. So for me, as soon as I'm getting any of those triggers, so for the anxiety, it's usually that there's like a spot that I got like right here. And that spot, when that spot starts to tingle a bit, I know that I'm starting to feel a lot more stress. And I have that spot as like a go-to. My body just has a trigger. It starts to tighten up in that one spot. So as soon as that starts to happen, wherever I am, I try to stop and take several deep breaths. So even if I'm in the middle of of work or whatnot, I try to take a break. If it means like, oh, I'm gonna go get some more tea, or I just need to get up and take a restroom break, I take that as an opportunity to do something like that. And it's not always easy, but I think it's what we really need to do. It's what I need to do. And then as far as tuning out or checking out of my body, I feel it, I start to feel a little fuzzy headed, right? Like I'm just a little, it's almost like medicine head. If you're someone who's ever had a bunch of sinus issues, like me, take decongestant, stuff like that, you start to feel that like disconnect in your head, right? So as soon as that starts to happen, I try to sit down on my mat. And if I'm not right now, I'm usually in my apartment, as most of us are. But again, wherever I am, just like with the sort of the red flags that anxiety is coming, the red flags that disconnecting and checking out is coming, I come back to my breath. So in that case, rather than coming back to the breath as a way to sort of relax part of the body, I come back to the breath to focus on the sensation of the breath in my body so that I can feel my rib cage expand. I can feel the breath in my body and I can be here and present. So this is a hard one because we are in a shelter in place or stay at home order here in DC, and that's becoming more frequent in other places. But that also kind of gives me hope because it means that we're doing what we need to do to flatten the curve. So the fact that there are people stepping up and doing what needs to be done to try to help limit everybody's exposure, that gives me hope. People who are out there doing things for their community, all the medical workers, all the grocery store workers, all of the people who are essential employees, for essential businesses who are out there, that gives me hope. People reaching out to support their community, people reaching out to request support in their community, that gives me hope. So there's a lot of individuals doing a lot of amazing things. All you have to do is like look at some of your friends, look at your community, look at what the people that you surround yourself with. Look at what they're doing and look at what they inspire you to do. That gives me hope. Biggest piece of advice I can give people is to start putting together, if you haven't already, start putting together a sanity survival kit. We know what we need to do physically to stay healthy during this pandemic, but a lot of us, we sort of forget about that the mental health aspect is just as important, especially as we may be here for a little while in our social isolation. So that's going to be really important. So find what brings you joy, what gives you something to laugh about at least once a day. And I'm going to tell you, by the end of this whole thing, because I live alone, you'll see my little plant there. I got a couple little plants. I have a feeling that I'm going to be chatting with them and I'm going to be practicing yoga, talking to my plants. And I think that that's okay. So it's okay to have stuff like that going on. Like it's a different time than normal. Yeah, finding something to laugh about, finding something that brings you joy at least once a day, really important. For me, also, limiting my exposure to the news has been really important to me. I think that it's very important to be informed about the situation, but not to oversaturate, right? The news site, like a lot of the news is repetitive. So I give myself really short periods of time, like a couple minutes, like a couple times a day. If I want to check in on the news, I will do it during those specific windows, unless somebody tells me there's some sort of emergency. So also, if you're lucky enough to work from home like me, and I am very lucky to be able to work from home in my day job, I think it's important that you separate out your life and put some sort of structure in there so that you can stay motivated in all aspects of your life. So at the end of the day, I shut down my workstation, which is behind me here, close that all down so that in my mind, I am closing the door, I am walking away from work, and I am coming into my personal life, my personal space. So that may be my yoga mat, which I'm sitting on right now, so that I have my space for practice and I have the mental and physical space for that. And then when I go to bed, which gotta tell you, it's just a couple feet away from here, that also is its own space. So there's some sort of structure for me. honestly, like, checking in with yourself several times a day mentally to say, like, what is it that I need right now? Because it's gonna vary from day to day, from hour to hour. There's a lot going on, obviously. So be in tune with what it is that you need. And if you've already sort of compiled a lot of that stuff and put it in your Sanity Survival Kit, you're gonna be able to pull it out a lot easier. Also, things to put in there are hobbies, things that you used to do, maybe haven't had as much time to do, that bring you joy, that can keep your hands and your mind occupied to give you a break from all the other shit. So, baking, getting back to playing guitar, like that kind of stuff. Put it in there so that when you need it, it's just right there. All you gotta do is like pull it out and be like, okay, like what of these things do I need right now? That's my big tip. Starting with the obvious, this one is the question in this whole exercise that was most clearly written by a yoga teacher. Breath, breath, breath. It all starts with the breath. When I need grounding in times of stress, I close my eyes and I remind myself to focus on how my breath feels in my body. And I breathe deeper. And I try to find more space in my body to breathe into. And in times of uncertainty and high anxiety, sometimes it's a difficult thing for me to find on my own. So if I am not able to do that on my own, I'm not able to find the space to breathe into, I reach out to my community. So that may be direct communication, text, calling, video chatting, all that kind of stuff. It may be that, or it may just be social media. It may be finding something of inspiration that someone in my community has put out there that I know is coming from a genuine place. So I guarantee you that if you're having a hard time grounding and breathing, there's somebody out there in your community that's going to help you to find that place. And I encourage you, when others reach out to you to find that place, to let them see you, to let them hear you. As I mentioned, I have an aversion to being in front of a camera. It makes me very uncomfortable. But I know that seeing people I'm close to, seeing their faces and hearing their voices has done a whole lot to help me relax, to help me come from a space of feeling centered, and to help me breathe. So it's only fair that I do the same for them. So from me to you, thank you for listening. Stay safe, everybody.